Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Thinking Thursday here on the Cool Sports Network and Chase's Sports News YouTube channel. I'm your host, Chase Coburn. Folks, on April 6th, 2025, this past Sunday, I was in attendance for Alex Ovechkin's 895th goal to surpass Wayne Gretzky as officially the greatest goal scorer in the history of the NHL. And while I don't always share it as much on this podcast, you guys probably know I'm a diehard Ravens fan, a diehard Orioles fan. A lot of you follow my Wizards podcast, Wiz Talk with Chase. What some of you may not know is that I am a diehard Capitals fan and have been ever since I was at the age of 7. And Ovechkin in that 2018 team had a magical run and won the Stanley Cup championship when nobody thought it was possible. To be there on that day where Ovechkin was able to break the record was extraordinary. And the reaction before it, the lead up to it, and the reaction after it has just made it so much more special for a player who spent his entire career with one organization and had one of the most spectacular and illustrious careers in sports history. However, as Wayne Gretzky said when he had the record, records are meant to be broken. And so not to bring kind of a sour taste onto this Ovechkin record, but at some point, who knows how long, it will most likely get broken. Ovechkin could play a few more years if he wants to, but who knows how much longer he's going to go. If the amount is 895, which it will be more, I want to talk about the players, the three players in mind, who I believe have the most realistic chance of even being in the realm of possibility that are currently playing today with the opportunity to break Alexander Ovechkin's record when it's all said and done. And again, a lot of this is going to be a far-fetched theory because at the end of the day, when you have 895 goals and you're having one of the best goal-scoring seasons of your entire career at 39 years old, who knows how much more he has left in the tank. If he wanted to get to 1,000, he probably could. Would he be playing at the same level in 3 years when he gets there? No. But he's still that level of a player. At 39 years old, he's been able to stay healthy. So there's so much that goes in to being a goal scorer of his caliber. I want to give you guys the three players that I believe have the best chance to break the Great Eights record for most goals in a single NHL career. Hope you guys do enjoy this edition of Thinking Thursday. I'm your host, Chase Coburn. This is going to be a very, very fun episode. The episode title is Alex Ovechkin's record unbreakable? I mean, we just saw Ovechkin scored 895 goals in 1,487 games. A truly extraordinary mark for an extraordinary player. An unbelievable player, in fact. Gretzky, he scored 894 goals in the same amount of games, just even adding on to the fact that Ovi is the greatest goal scorer of all time. Just to put into perspective how great he's been for so many years, he's eclipsed 50 goals 9 times in his career, and still at 39 years old, his goals per game average this season of 0.69 goals per game is the 5th best mark of his entire career. At 39 years old, his scoring rate is still the second highest in the NHL, only behind Leon Draisaitl, with 42 goals in 61 games. He missed over a month's worth of time due to a leg injury earlier this season. How about the guys, though, that have an opportunity to perhaps break his record? Honorable mentions, Connor McDavid. I mean, McDavid's been a prolific goal scorer. He's a guy who's going to have a 5 or 6 straight 100-point seasons. I mean, that's the type of guy you're dealing with when you're talking about Connor McDavid, one of the best players in the NHL for years. But he's too much of a pass-first type guy. When you're getting 70 assists a year, it's going to be very hard to compile goals. And he could still be a guy to eclipse 500, but I can't even see him getting near this 895 and plus. I'll put an 895 plus mark from Alexander Ovechkin. And in terms for Nikita Kucherov, I just think he's too old at this point in his career. He's already 31 years old. And we're already talking about younger guys who would have to get into their late 30s, early 40s to do it. Kucherov just got off to too slow of a start and hasn't had the resume in his first years in the league to be able to break the record at some point in his career. However, there are 3 guys who I do want to talk about that I believe have a shot. It's going to go from order 3 to 1. 3 being the third most likely out of the 3 guys, and then number 1 being the guy who I believe has the best shot to break Alex Ovechkin's record of players that are currently in the NHL. Number 3, let's talk about David Pastrnak. 28 years old, 389 goals in 753 games. That goals per game average still equates to a pretty solid amount of 0.52, but nothing compared to Alexander Ovechkin, who in his first 753 games had a 0.62 goals per game average. So that's one more goal, or 0.1 more goals per game over the course of that span. And that's how you get, close to 100 more goals and not 80 more goals in that span. So already Ovechkin was able to get off to a better start. And the start that he had, it's been similar statistics since for the grade 8, the same goals per game average in his first 753 games, and then the next 688 to get to 895. So in terms of what Pastrnak is going to have to do, he's going to have to score 506 more goals. At his current pace, it would take him 973 games. With that current pace, NHL.com predicts he would break the record in 2037-38. He would be 41 years old at that time. However, that's with his current pace of 0.52 goals per game. Since 2001-2022, he's had 189 goals in 315 games, 0.6 goals per game, near that 0.62 mark that Ovechkin's been at. If you equate that pace, it's even much less. But again, you also look at that, and you also have to look at the things, too, that could hold him back. Perhaps a poor supporting cast. Boston's blowing it up. And if Pasternak's going to stay in Boston, he's not going to have the talent around him that Alex Ovechkin's been able to have in his 20-year career with Washington, where the Caps have been, division trophy winners more times than you can count. They've been, there's division winners, been the President's Trophy winners 3 times. They've been a Stanley Cup champion team. They've been a team that has consistently gone to the postseason because of the Ovechkin and the talent around him. If Pastrnak does not have the talent around him, he could be stuck next to, at best, mediocre talent for these core years of his career, and that could slow down his scoring pace. Pasta also got off to a slower, I say slower as if I was writing this, it would be italicized, because 132 goals in your first 320 games aren't terrible, but compared to Ovechkin and Gretzky, the numbers don't even compare. So when you get off to a slower start like that, it's hard to catch up to two players who had such great longevity. Now just comparing it to Ovechkin, I think also, Pastrnak is a scorer first. I'll give him that, but he also passes frequently. He's had 3 straight seasons with 50 plus assists. He had 63 in 2023-24. Now, he has had seasons in his career where he has been a type of player that is one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. In 2019-2020, he tied with Ovechkin for the Rocket Richard. He also had 61 goals in the 2022-23 season. So we've seen that before, but has not hit 50 in any other season outside of that 61 goal year. So maybe he feels like it's a one-hit wonder type season. Overall, my analysis for Pastrnak, it's very unlikely. He'll have to get good talent around him compared to what he has currently in Boston. He'll have to stay very consistent, and he'll have to stay healthy. And I think he'll really have to change his play style a lot if he even wants a shot at the record. Again, this is a guy in David Pastrnak who I could very easily see getting to the 500 goals mark. In fact, I think it's very likely that he does get there. Maybe he can make a run at 600. But I don't see him getting toward that 895 mark. But out of the guys currently in the NHL, he's going to have the third best chance. Now, when Jake Gensel was recently asked a question, Jake Gensel, former Pittsburgh Penguin, now with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but for NHL.com, and the guys that could get to Ovi's amount, guys that could possibly break it, the episode that we have today, he mentioned 2 players. One guy who's number 1 on our list, and the guy who's number 2 on our list, Leon Draisaitl, 29 years old. In his first 790 games in the NHL, he has 399 goals, which equates to about half a goal per game. Again, not a terrible mark, but since 2018-19, he's even taken his game to the next level, 0.62 goals per game, a very similar amount to Ovechkin in kind of 5-6 year stretches of his career. For Ovechkin, in his first 790 games, he had a 0.63 goals per game average, so overall much more than Draisaitl. But again, that's honestly just with Draisaitl's slower start, and that's going to be the number one thing that's going to hold him back, because we think that Pastrnak got off to a slow start. For that start for Draisaitl in his first 269 career games, his first 4 seasons, he had a 0.27 goals per game average. For Ovechkin, it was at 0.68 in his first 3 seasons, and he was able to play more games. So he was scoring more frequently in terms of a per game rate, was playing more often. So there is the separator. There's the gap. Now, since then, Draisaitl's been one of the most elite goal scorers in the NHL, up there with some of the best of all time. But Draisaitl would have to produce at a rate so much higher than Ovechkin for such a portion of his career that it does sound unrealistic to get there. NHL.com, with his current pace in his career, would project him to break it in 2036-37. He would be 41 years old at that time. Again, it just scratches the surface of really what you need to do to evaluate whether he can get there, because that's using his per game statistics, if you will, for his entire career, when, again, you had a 4-season stretch that didn't really talk about what he is capable of as an NHL player. He could play more like the guy who he's played for the past 6 seasons. He leads the NHL in goals this season with 52. So if he continues to play like that guy and stay healthy, there's the avenue to get through. He almost has 400 goals already at age 29. Could he get there? Maybe. Again, that slow start's going to hold him back. He's also a guy who could pass the puck really well. 9 straight seasons with 45 plus assists, 7 straight seasons with 50 plus assists. Ovechkin only had 4 career seasons total in his entire career with 50 plus assists. And he also, Draisaitl led the NHL in that assist mark with 67 in the 2019-20 season. So kind of like the argument we were talking about earlier with David Pastrnak, if you don't even need, you could still be, scorer first. But if you're passing the puck at that high of a rate, it's very hard to generate those goals. And plus, he's also playing next to Connor McDavid, who was an honorable mention on our list. I mean, McDavid's a guy who has 361 career goals, right there near Draisaitl. It's going to be very hard for Draisaitl to get a 60-goal season somewhere in that range to maybe close the gap a little bit over these next few seasons when you have a guy in Connor McDavid who can also score 60 goals right next to you. So I think that Draisaitl has a shot. I think he's been so elite as a goal scorer since that 2018-19 season that he is a worthy mention, though I don't really find him I don't think there is a realistic possibility that he does get there. There is one guy, however, 27 years old, the other guy who Jane Gensel talked about, and really the only other guy that has been in conversations to break Alexander Ovechkin's record, and that's Austin Matthews. In his first 624 career games, which is what he's played right now, he has 398 goals, which equates to a 0.64 goals per game average. That is the 5th best ever among players with 300-plus goals. It's a higher goals per game average than Alex Ovechkin, and it's a higher goals per game average than the Great One as well. So 2019-20, that average has risen to 0.7 goals per game on a consistent basis. That's the guy you're dealing with. Again, Ovechkin's goals per game average actually lower than Matthews in the same amount of time. So Matthews has actually gotten off to a better start in the same amount of games. For Matthews to even get close to this record, he's going to have to produce at a rate that he's produced at now for essentially the rest of his career. He could take a backseat in some years, but overall, he's going to need to be a 40, 50 goal season on a consistent basis. NHL.com thinks he's going to break it 2034-35. At that time, he would be 37 years old. Ovechkin's 39 right now, so if he's able to have the longevity factor, if he is able to stay healthy, both are major questions, both something that Alex Ovechkin has been able to do in his career. And to his credit, I mean, it's just when you have a 6'3", 200-plus pound guy coming at you, he's conditioned himself really well. He stayed in great shape for many years in his career. And so when you are able to limit injuries, you're able to have that longevity. That's going to be the concern for Austin Matthews. I think people know that Matthews, when it's all said and done, we're going to look back and we're going to say he's producing at one of the highest rates in NHL history, as we're saying about him right now, again, with the 5th best goals per game average in NHL history for players with 300-plus goals. That's the guy you're dealing with when you're talking about Austin Matthews. And I think in terms of his scoring rate, we're going to see something pretty similar. He's going to be in the higher echelon as one of the best players in NHL history in terms of game-to-game basis. But it's going to be whether he has that longevity factor that's going to come in handy. Injuries haven't been so significant of a problem where he's missed full or large chunks of seasons, but he has had injury problems in his career, and it's not like it's one body part either. It's multiple different parts of his body that just the wear and tear has kind of given into him in a sense. He missed significant time this year and in the 2017-18 season as well. And I think the other thing that's holding him back as well is the same thing for Draisaitl. It's the talent that is around him. William Nylander is second in the NHL in goals this season, his teammate with 44. Mitch Marner, again, a pass-first guy, kind of complements Matthews really well, but still a guy who's going to get you 30 goals in any given season. Matthews only has 30 goals this year, which Ovechkin has had down years, like in 2021, only had in that shortened season had less than 30 goals. You saw seasons like in 2017 where he changed his play style under Barry Trotz to become less of a pure goal scorer, and you saw his numbers dip a little bit because of it. So I think that is what's going to hold Matthews back if he continues to have seasons like this and his teammates are going to do more scoring-wise. But I also believe what makes him the best candidate is that he could very easily go for 60-plus goals on any given season if he could stay healthy. He's already done it multiple times in his career. That's more times than Ovi. Ovi only did it once. His 69-goal season last year is the 15th highest mark in a season all time. Again, a 2-time Rocket Richard winner. He's younger than the other realistic candidates that we have mentioned. And kind of as we've been talking about, he's a shoot-first playmaker. Like, the guy's a passer, but yeah, this is his game is putting the puck in the back of the net. It's lighting lamps. And that's exactly what Ovechkin did, because you could have the ability to pass the puck, which Barry Trotz, when he was kind of changing Ovechkin's style of play in his time as the head coach, he spoke about how great Ovechkin is as simply as a playmaker and as a passer. And you could say the same thing about Austin Matthews, but you also have to revolve your game around your goal scoring if you even want a shot of scratching the surface of this record, of even having a chance to look at it from a close distance. So we'll see. Matthews is definitely the best candidate to get there. In terms of that Jake Gensel quote that I've been talking about, he said that Matthews is going to be right there. He feels like Draisaitl is going to be there. He said there's going to be a lot of goal scorers in this league, but if there's one, I'd say Matthews has the best shot. Now, if you go to the NHL statistics, which I find interesting, it says Matthews has 30 goals with 5 games remaining, putting him on pace to finish with 32. It would give him an average of 44.4 goals per season for his career. He'd have to maintain that rate for 11 more seasons to get to 888th, and in his 12th season would reach the mark between 896 and 900 for his career. And again, once the season ends and when Ovechkin's career ends, we're going to have a much better understanding of how hard this is to break, because if Ovechkin does go for more seasons, this record is going to become increasingly more challenging as time goes on. Offensive players could also get better, but a higher total is a higher total, and that's going to become more and more impressive each time someone is even has the possibility of getting to that mark. I also believe that, like what Austin Matthews said about Ovi, you could clearly tell that Matthews doesn't believe that way. He's just so proud of Ovi. He said it's pretty incredible, just the will to score and the consistency and kind of everything that goes into it. It's been fun to watch. It's hard to put it into perspective just how many goals that really is. And if Matthews is actually going to make that chase toward the goals record, he will put it into perspective how many goals that really is. Martin Brodeur, one of the greatest goalies of all time, he said, I was wrong about Gretzky because he said that was an unbreakable record. So he said he might be wrong if he says nobody's ever going to get that record as well. But it's definitely going to be a challenge, he said to NHL.com. Overall, here's my thought process. Here's my philosophy. I don't think anyone's going to get it from this current era. Records are meant to be broken. The record will be broken eventually. It'll be broken in my lifetime. I do think it will last more than the 31 years, however, that Gretzky was able to hold the record. I think the goaltending, you could say scoring is becoming more superb, and that's fine. I also think goaltending equipment and goaltending talent as a whole has also become better over the years. And that's why I hate when people do this and they're like, well, maybe Gretzky's the greatest goal scorer because he's played in an era. Like, I hate to do this. You can't compare eras in sports. So if this does happen 30, 40 years from now, we're not going to be able to compare the great 8 Alexander Ovechkin with this new scoring phenom who broke his record. You're not going to be able to do it. It's two different eras. It's different eras. It's different styles of play. I do think, however, that someone from this era, it's going to be very hard for them to get there, because not only in his prime was Ovechkin so consistently toward the top of, goal statistics for many years, 50 goal seasons 9 times, Rocket Richard winner 9 times. Like, not only did he do that, but like his down seasons were 35 goals. And he was able to stay healthy across his entire career. He has never missed but besides the 1 year, the 2020-21 season, he did miss some time with COVID illness and stuff. Outside of that season, he's never really missed a large chunk of the season in his entire career. So it's very fun to look at this right now and say that there are players who have the goal scoring talent, or in terms of the per game rate of an Alex Ovechkin or a Wayne Gretzky. But it's a whole other animal to be able to, even if you don't sustain it, keep up with a similar rate for so long. Like, guys, he is in year 20. He's 39 years old, and he is still one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. Maybe someone does break it, but when you're dealing with an animal like Alexander Ovechkin, it's more increasingly challenging than any record that may want to be pursued in the game of hockey or in sports in general, besides Wayne Gretzky's points record. I'll put that out there. Records are not meant to be broken in terms of Wayne Gretzky's points record. If someone does, please replay this and tell me I'm an idiot, but no one will ever break that. In terms of this goal scoring record, you never know. But my captain, the great 8 Alexander Ovechkin, has it for now. Did it in legendary fashion, continues to score in historic ways in his 20th NHL season and at the age of 39 years old. If someone else breaks it, wow, they're a great goal scorer. It's all fun and games, but at the end of the day, we just witnessed one of the most historic pursuits in sports history. And there's a possibility that we'd never see anyone touch it again. I hope you guys did enjoy this edition of Thinking Thursday. I have all this stuff around me just to really show you guys how much I love the Caps. You can see these two things here. You can see another bobblehead and other like little stuffed animal, things that I collected when I was younger and just getting into hockey. And it's something I have right above where I record every single time. And I look at it, it is this autograph of Alexander Ovechkin. So on the puck. So love the guy. He is incredible, and he is the greatest goal scorer in the history of the NHL. And we're going to have continuous coverage of this record and what it means to the NHL. You can check out chasecoburn.substack.com. We wrote a great piece on Monday just about, really what it means. And then we're going to go more in depth. Spoke with many great reporters from different sports. The big thing around the internet, LeBron James versus Alex Ovechkin, which I hate that we're doing, but I'm going to jump on there, really compare not only the quality of the record, but the quality of how historic it was for the franchise, how historic it was for the league, and how exciting the buildup was and the pursuit was for Alex Ovechkin's record pursuit compared to other record pursuits in sports history. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be one of the bigger pieces ever on my newsletter. Links to all my shows are in the description. And please enjoy the rest of the NHL regular season. Enjoy the rest of the NBA regular season. Consistent coverage coming in soon here on the Chasing Sports News YouTube channel and the Cool Sports Network. So just stay tuned for more coverage as we near both postseasons, and stay tuned for some more MLB coverage as well as we continue to follow a very long 162 game MLB season. I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of Thinking Thursday. We're going to sign off right here. I'm your host, Chase Coburn, saying so long. If anyone's going to break the grade 8's record, it's going to be Austin Matthews, but that's still a very, very hard record to beat, because who knows if 895 is the score to beat. It could be more, and that's a scary thought to think about.